Hi, my name is Matt Zimmerman, and I'm applying for a wildcard position in Road to the Horse. I've been starting colts pretty much most of my life, and I've been involved in several round pin challenges and have had huge success. So I just figured that I should apply for this because of the success that I've had and to share my knowledge with the rest of the world and continue on from there. And basically what we're doing right here is we're working with he's a 3-year-old double registered APHA, AQHA colt, Legelian, and the sire is Comedy Star. He's a reserve world champion and a multiple futurity champion. And the dam is Roses Are Good. She's a Superior Halter finalist and at the AQHA Select World. Anyway, so we got a nice colt we're working with. Basically, we worked with him for 45 minutes the other day, and we got control of his feet, and we got him changing direction, consistent speed going around the pen first, and then we got him to change direction to the inside, and then consistent speed going the other direction. And then we also got to change to the inside, and then consistent change direction. So basically, I'm getting control of his feet so I can prepare him for the first ride and have everything be safe, make it safe for the horse and also safe for myself, the rider, and really introduce a lot of stuff to these colts in a short amount of time. And on the ranch, what we did is we implemented a lot of this stuff, and over time I've been able to have different people finesse me out to the point where I can put the finesse in of the training into the horses early on. So anyway, we'll just get started here, and then we'll just kind of go from there. I'm going to move him around. I'm going to get control of his feet and get him kind of get some consistent control first. And then I'm going to progress up. And we're going to saddle him, put a bridle in his mouth. We're going to saddle him, and we'll put a first ride on him today. And so we'll see how we all get along. But we'll see what he remembers. The other day, I had him turn in. We'll just see how he does today. Step over. There we go. Back in the day, we used to just saddle these colts up and just jump on them and try to let the horse sort it all out as long as the guy can stay on top and then figure it out on the fly. The more horses that I train and the more that I do, I figured this method's a lot safer. We're actually get the horse to achieve a lot more and have a lot more trust. So if the horse has a lot more trust, there's a lot less kind of train wrecks go on. And so everything's safer, and the horse learns more, and you can actually achieve more in a shorter amount of time. So, there we go. What I did notice the other day was he was a little sticky, turning into the inside of the pin from his right side, which we noticed the first time I asked him to turn. So, essentially we want to get him to be equal on both sides as far as this goes. So, there we go. This does a couple different things. We're able to get control of his feet, take the edge off of him, and take the pressure off of him at the same time. So when I ask this horse to go, I'm going to point and say to the direction I want him to go, and if he's not moving by then, count every 1 second, and then give a cluck, and count another second, and if he's still not going, come in and give him a little energy with either a rope or a whip to move him off. And the main thing is to have that consistency. So. There we go. In the first ride, what I want to achieve with this colt is I want to be able to get on him and to have him do a walk, trot, and lope on a loose rein without pulling on his mouth unless he's going to do something kind of wild and crazy and wants to either bark or run off. But before I get on him, I want to make sure that he gives to the bit each direction, and we have a little bit of a whoa button. And I also want to get him to the point where I can lay across his back, give him a little bit of pressure from above. There we go. What's a little better? Basically, right now, we're working on the consistent change of direction part. So I should be able to move him around the pin, time or two, and then ask him to turn to the inside, change direction, square up, face me. There we go. When I ask him to turn in, when I let him rest, I want him to look into the center of the pin. That's what I'm after. Now, last time, what he did is he squared up and faced me, and actually went a little further beyond. So he wasn't actually looking directly at me. If we're consistent with what we ask, if we're consistent with what we get out of him, then we should really start to achieve quite a bit of results in our training process. There we go. See how he's looking directly at me right now? That's what I'm after. So we'll give him a little breather. I'll get a halter and a lead on him. And then I'll start progressing out to the point where I can crawl on top of him and put the bit in his mouth to let him think about that while we're doing this. So, anyway. Let me grab that lead rope. I think it's in that bucket right there. Might as well take that headset all over. Thank you. Now when I go to catch him, I'm just going to walk around him like I have an imaginary lead rope for him to me. This is the colt. He's been handled a little bit. He has had a tendency to get a little leery when you kind of start walking up to him. So instead of walking up to him, I walk around him, and as long as he squares up to me, that's what we're after. So see how he is a little bit kind of with his head? He's not so sure without letting me touch him. So I'll just kind of move up nice and easy and kind of get my hands on him a bit. And then move away. We need to get him really trusting to the point where we can just kind of come right up to him. Like if I'm to his shoulder right now, good. What he has been doing is he kind of peel away and want to play that cat and mouse game a little bit. Just kind of like he just did right there. He kind of wanted to do that. But for today, we're just going to get a hold of him. We're going to put a bit in his mouth. There we go. Now, I noticed the other day he was a little head shy right around his ears, and he's a little bit like that still. But basically what I'm going to do is get a bit into his mouth and let him pack it while we start working with this other process. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my finger in the corner of his mouth to the point where he'll gape and open up a little bit. And we'll just, as long as it's not a big production, we'll get that bit in there. And if he gets a little bit too kind of salty with it, what I'll do is I'll put him back on the rail. There we go. So basically what I'm doing, putting the finger in the corner of his mouth to the point where he'll gape and open his mouth. So when I do bring the bit over, there we go. That was about the first time he did it. What he was doing is he had his mouth clenched really tight. He's just going to push me around a little bit. And you still want to push me around a little bit, as long as I can get it to open just a bit. not make a big production out of it, not get into a big fight. What we'll do is we'll take, at the end of the ride, what I can do is put the bit in and out of his mouth then. Because right now he's fresh, and he's wanting to kind of fight me a little bit. So we'll do something just a little different for a second here. Rub him all over, get him used to this change his thought process for a second. Especially where he's wanting to kind of push me around a bit. So come back over here. And if you can get as close to him as you can and get your hands on him, this is key. And what you want to do is rub him and touch him with as much body as you can. What I like to do is rub my stomach or belly across them and have both hands moving around. Because if you're touching them in several different places, they can't focus on all of them at the same time. So he's done pretty good there. I'll see if we can get this bit in his mouth. And just let him pack it, and we'll kind of go from there. So, here we go. There we go. Now he's kind of play around a little bit. I'll just kind of rub him a little bit and just work that head stall on the other side. I can touch him all over. Just need to get it beyond that right ear. Not making a big deal out of it. There we go. Okay. So by getting that bit on there, it just kind of lets him pack it and carry that bit before I start putting any pressure on him. So that's what I'm going to do there. And while he's got that in, I'm just going to take the end of the lead rope, throw it over his back, and touch him as much wherever I can. We'll get him over here where there's a little more light. And basically, when I do this, I don't want to hold him in position. If he goes away aggressively, I'll pull him back with the lead. Just bump his head back, as long as he stays there on his own. So when I do this, just do it like it's just a matter of fact. If you go up and you sneak around on all your horses, then they're always worried about something going to go on, and they get a little cautious. But if you just do this like you've been doing it for years, and it's not a big deal, then they just get used to you acting like you're going to act normally down the line. So, here we go. And I like it when I first start, I'll do this until he stops moving all 4 feet. And then he stays in one position without moving off. Ideally, you do this until he licks and chews. Like right now, he's got that kind of bright eye. He's not really blinking. He's not really relaxed completely. There, he just licked and chewed. You must know English, I guess. Perfect. So, that's what we're after. So, we'll go to the other side, do that a little bit. I did this a little bit on the first day we did it, just briefly. Like you can tell as soon as you throw this over, his body flinches and kind of gets a little nervous. So basically just do that until most of the nervousness goes away. And all this stuff is just preparing him to accept a rider up on top with all the other things that go along. If you have your leg bumps against them on the side and startles them, well, They're getting used to have things kind of bumping them right now by this lead rope kind of coming up and wrapping around them and bumping into their hind legs. So it's just desensitizing them to prepare him for success later. Hopefully down the line here in a little bit, we'll get him saddled and we'll have a successful first ride put on him. Here in a second, the other thing that I want to do is I want to get to a point where I can lay my body across his so he can see me up on top of him the first time, above him, so that when I do step into the saddle and throw my leg over and actually sit on him, he's not frightened or has any big worry or concern of what I'm going to do to him up there. A lot of times if you just jump on them, they never had anybody just jump on them, and it startles them and frightens them, and a lot of times that's what happens, and you hear about a horse bucking somebody off or having an accident or a big wreck is because they just got caught off guard, didn't prepare him for the first ride, and to have him trust you before you actually get on. So anyway, we'll see what we can do here. When I start doing this, I'll just kind of rub with both my hands like I was doing just earlier, and I'll just apply just a little bit of wither pressure. Put my hands over the top, and then just kind of hang down. There, just a little bit at a time. And give him a little bit more. And if he goes away, I'm just going to bump his head back, and then go back to doing the rubbing on top of him against his body. The more rubbing and touching you do, jump up and down, rub all over his body. There we go. The more that you can do, the more he gets you doing this when you go to step up in the saddle. Ideally, once you get up here, I'm going to be able to move all around without him bolting, bucking, or doing anything really wild and crazy. There we go. And the more I can move around with him standing still, the better success I have when I do step up on top of him, that he will not only try to run off when I do put my foot up into the saddle. And ideally, I want him to stop moving his feet. With me up on top here. There we go, perfect. And as soon as he stops moving his feet, I'll step down. And more wild, crazy things that a guy can do while he's up here and riding him, the better off you are when you get on the first ride. What's going to happen is if you've been doing a bunch of different things, he's less apt to do anything like buck or spook or any of that. So, up here, right there, he kind of thought he was going to do something. He was increasing his speed. So, perfect. You're just going to come back at him. And once I get up here, I'm still going to move around, there we go, as much as I can, until he stops. Here in a second, I'll swing my legs all around to the point where I'll rub his withers. There we go. Perfect. Now he's seen me up here for the first time on both sides. And he's comfortable with it. He hasn't done nothing crazy. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to put the saddle on, then we'll move him around the pen, and then we'll put the first ride on after I get him to the point where he's given the bit pressure. Now the first time I saddle him, I want to be able to put this saddle pad on and off several times each side. He needs to get used to being just touched and rubbed. And if I just snuck it on and threw it on, may not get by once or twice, but if I do this correct, they'll stand still every time when I saddle him, and they won't give me any trouble. Ideally, I say about 50 times each side with the saddle pad. So when you put the saddle up there, he's going to stand nice and quiet for me. There's nothing more annoying than going to saddle a horse up, and he's moving all around, and you almost have to chase him around to get the saddle on. So, and really, a guy can do all of these things. Anytime you introduce something new to him, you keep doing it until you get the signs of the horse relaxing. Whether he's blinking his eye would be a sign, a little bit more, lowering his head, licking and chewing, resting the hind hock. And you can just see that just the overall demeanor of the horse start to relax. So, there we go. Go to this other side. Do the same thing over here. When I throw this stuff up here, you just do it like you've been doing it for years. Just throw it up, down his body. And I like what I'm seeing here with this little guy, because early on, when I do something over here, he'd be a little flinchy, his body would shudder just a little bit. But now, he's kind of mellowed out. He's not jumping every time I pick that pad up, throw it over the top. I'm getting less flinchiness in his body as we progress. He's starting to actually look outside the door, take his focus somewhere else. Once those horses start doing that, basically they're not worried about me anymore. All right, we'll grab the saddle, we'll get it on, and then we'll work on getting him to give to the bit just a bit. Now, this saddle I picked up in Australia. I was fortunate enough to do a work exchange in Australia on a cattle station in the outback. And so, when I first went over there, I thought they were crazy to ride in these kind of saddles because they did not have a saddle horn. And then there was no, the stirrups just kind of clip on. There's a little hook underneath the saddle. And so, but by having just a little stirrup like this, I have a free range of motion with my foot once I do get up in the saddle. I can swing my foot all the way up to the front of the shoulder, and then also all the way back to by his hip, because I'm not packing all that fender leather of a normal Western, like a broken saddle or a saddle with horn. So it has several nice features in it, and it's really light, and it's really good for starting these colts. And so before I left Australia, I ended up picking a couple of these up. So when I get home, I can use these into my program when I start all these colts. So now this little colt's basically done everything pretty good so far. The first saddling, I had a girth on him the other day, earlier. The first saddling that we've done, he stood very still. So instead of having a horse spook and run off, we got him doing pretty darn good. So I'll snug it up just to the point where I know it's going to stay on. And then I'm going to turn it loose, and I'm going to get control of his feet again with the saddle while he has the saddle on. So I'll take the lead rope off, and I'll move him off. And basically what I want now, if he spooks or bucks, or does something with the saddle, I'm going to change his stopping and change his direction. But I want him to get to the point where he can walk, trot, and lope with the saddle up there. Because he's done this with the, see his head is looking right there for a second. He looked back, he had a tiny bit of hump in his back. So we'll change him. There we go. Anytime they're going to get ready to check out and do something kind of crazy, you stop them and change their direction. And it protects the horse from getting hurt, and it gets him focused on me in the middle and not be really worried about what's going on as far as the saddle or anything with him. So all this stuff has been new to him. He's got the bridle he's packing. He's got a snaffle bit in his mouth right now, and the saddle and saddle pad, and we got protective boots on him just to protect him from clipping himself. Here we go. So, ideally, I like to do that groundwork because the horse always goes with what they know, and anytime I introduce a new object to him, I will transition him back to this exercise to the point where if he does check out, he comes back to me. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll put, plastic sacks or different things, and I introduce them slowly, one at a time, and go back to here, then I'll go add something else. So, some tin cans, just something to make noise, and then keep progressing it up. So, if I get to a point, you can almost basically have a yard sale on his back, or have a big bunch of garbage and trash carrying around, and he'll act like no big deal. But if you never introduce him to these things, and horses, you never know what's going to happen if something happens, a white plastic sack comes along their way, or something different comes along. It kind of scares them and spooks them. But if you get them to the point that they know exactly what's going on and have seen all these life experiences, then it's no big deal. All right. Here we go back to where we were at before. I let him rest and take a little breather, squaring up and looking at me. When I was a kid, what we used to always do is just, we never let them take these little breathers and breaks and to soak it in. And so, but when they do something good and correct, you have to let them just take a little bit of a break, let it soak in. Some trainers call it, time to soak. Let their brain process what they're doing, and if they do it right, they get a reward. So, let him sit here for a second or two, and then I'm going to go grab one of the reins and get him to the point where we give to the bit, and get a little control before I step on him, and then we'll move right on through the things that we're going to get done today. So, while he's taking a break, what I can do is also just work on him pivoting around. As I walk around, he should shift it. He should shift his hip and keep me squared up in front of him. So I should be able to walk around him and have him just stay focused. Right there, he turned into the fence with me. So put him back to work. If he's not going to want to pay attention and stay locked onto me, there we go. We'll try this again before we move on to the bit. And if he wants to drift off like he just did there, put him back on the rail. And I don't want to take too much energy out of this colt, because I want him to have some energy when I go step on him and put a ride on him. And if he does go to leave town, like he just did a few times, you can just step back, raise your hand up,
and he should square up and face you. And if he leaves, then just send him off. So you can step back by his head and ask him to turn and square up to you, like right there. See how he was getting ready to head off that direction? And by me stepping back in front of him, it stopped that forward motion. So here we go. Get him to come back this way. And left. Okay. I'm going to grab that set of reins and we'll get him going here. Here we go. Okay, just put those reins on. Basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the rein on the side I'm on, I'm going to pull towards his hip, I'm going to tap on him to the point where I get his inside hind leg to cross underneath his outside hind. What this does is it disengages his hind end, takes the power away from him, and then it also teaches him to give to the bit and bend around the direction I'm going. And ideally when it's done correctly, the right front, he should do a forehand turn on his right front. And so what I'll do is I'll pull to the hip, and then as soon as that inside hind crosses underneath, I will release my hand back to his head, towards his head, and release him from pressure from the bit. Basically, this also gets to the point where you get on, gives you a little bit of direction as well. Okay. And this horse has a tendency to just be a little head shy. I'm not going to make a big production out of that right now. When I get to riding him, I'm just going to start rubbing him all over while I'm in the saddle. You can just get used to it. I'll just pick my battles a little at a time. Because if he's fresh, he's more up to pick a battle and more up to kind of win. So I just as soon get the first ride on, get him moving nice and easy. Going to this way, he's kind of wanting to walk forward on me instead of planting that inside front foot. Pull, release, pull, release, pull, release, pull, release, pull, release, pull, release. What I found is if I do this initially, it really gets them soft. I have checked them back to the side, and that works just as well, but it doesn't work on yielding the hip at the same time. Because if I'm walking around, kind of moving toward his hip's moving away, and then he's also giving to the bit and bending at the rib. So later on, this little colt, he's going to be quite a bit softer, quicker. There we go. So, just to recap real quick what we've done with him today. I've moved him around the pin. We got control, consistent direction going around the pin. Then I have the horse turn to the inside. I have consistent direction going the other way, just a refresher course. Basically what that does is just makes me know that I got control of his feet. And the reason I did that is because I knew I was going to add the saddle today and all the rest of this, the head stall and the pad and everything. So it just was, it's going to help prepare him to do it correct. So did that,
And then I desensitized him with the end of the lead rope, threw that over his back. And then I also put the head stall in. I just got it in. I put my finger in his mouth to the point where he would open his mouth up, so when he took the bit, it'd be easier the first time. So I got that accomplished. And then I rubbed it all over him, and I got the point where I could lay across his back and have all of my weight go across his back so he could see me up there without having a big production. And then I threw the saddle pad on and off several times to get him used to being saddled. And then I proceeded to grab the saddle, put it up there, cinched it up, and moved it around so he can get used to the girth pressure and the rest of all this other stuff moving around. And then I put reins onto the bit, and then I got him to the point where he's given to the bit each way. So I tighten this up, and I'm going to ask him to move off again, just a little bit, get used to it since I tighten the cinch up again. Move him off, make sure that he's comfortable with all the extra pressure on the girth before I step on it. What you can do on this round pin work, you can get the round pin work really finessed up to the point where he turns exactly when you ask him to turn. Right now I'm going in about an 8-foot diameter circle, and when it's all done and you got it correct, you should stand in basically in like a 2. What you can do on this round pin work, you can get the round pin work really finessed up to the point where he turns exactly when you ask him to turn. Right now I'm going in about an 8-foot diameter circle, and when it's all done and you got it correct, you should stand in basically in like a 2 or 3 foot diameter circle in the center, and they know exactly what to do. To stay consistent going around the pin and to turn when you want. What he does is he's wanting to stop right over here. He'll slow down and want to stop in this corner right there. So right before that corner, for that section of the round pin, I'll just push him on a little bit, like right here. The guy can really finesse that round pin step up. But for today's sake, we just want to get a first ride on him and then have a lot of success and have him be trusting me as I do all this stuff. So, let's see what we do here. Now, if I bended his head around, it'll help me get on him without him doing anything kind of wild and crazy. So, what I'll do is I'll bend his head around, and I'm going to put my foot in the stirrup, and I'm just going to stand up. I'm not going to throw my whole body over. Just kind of hop with him. I bend his head just a little more. Stand up until he stops moving his feet. And then go ahead and get back down. Do that again. What we used to do back in the day is we'd just bend their head around, jump on them, swing our leg over, and then hope that we were more cowboy than the horse was bronc. This way it kind of eliminates a lot of that. There we go. Now this horse has got to be pretty soft. When I pull on that rein, his head comes down and in. That's exactly what we want. Nice and easy. So, we'll do that to both sides. Back when we were on the ranch, I remember being up in the mountains and I had to get off on the right side. And I thought I had a pretty good broke horse, but went to get off that right side and he thought I was a lion crawled off that side and spooked, and so
It just showed me that that's just one of the little holes that I missed. But back on the ranch, it was just standard procedure to never get on the right side. Everybody always got on and off on the left-hand side. Okay. Now, once I got on him here, I want to just grab him in the corner. He can dip to the bit without going in any direction. There we go. I like what that little colt just did right there. He just kind of lowered his head down and showed that he was relaxed with me up here. A lot of those colts that are kind of spooky and wild, they'll have their head up and their eyes will just see all the white in their eye, and they're just waiting for the train wreck to happen. So, by him giving to the bit really soft and quiet, I'm actually pleased with how well he's doing. And so, at this point, like I said earlier, he was a little head shy. So what I like to do is get on top of him and just kind of rub him and just desensitize him from above as well. And eventually just desensitize their airspace too. So, I'll ask him to take a few steps forward, squeeze, and then I'll shut him down. Whoa. Slide my hand down, and do a one-range stop until he stops moving all 4 feet, and then gives to the bit. Move the other way. In this exercise, from the very first, whoa, he kind of decided to take off on his own right there. So we'll stop that. But from the very first ride, I want to establish a go button and a whoa button. So he needs to be able to move his feet forward, and he needs to be able to stop when I ask him. And also at this exercise, you can ask for the consistency to stay in the gait with the correct range and wander off on his own. So we'll pick him back up. There we go. And you need to be able to stay around, stay in a certain gait. Whatever gait I ask them to get into, I want them to stay in that gait until I ask them to either speed up or slow down. So we'll ask to squeeze my legs. Good. Move off with a nice easy. As they're moving around, like I said earlier, always be rubbing and touching. Like I said earlier, with my saddle, I can move these legs around freely, and as soon as he spooks or does anything, have a little more energy than what I'm asking, I'll just slide my hand down and stop him. What I've noticed is a lot of people, when they put a first ride on or they get on a horse, even their seasoned horses, they don't really want to move around or touch him here and there, because why? Well, he might buck. So if I do this early on, touch him early, rub him all over, get him used to it. So it's just all part of the program, and if he accidentally gets bumped in the flank, he's not going to check out on you. He's just going to think that's not a big deal. So when you're ready to stop him, I'll slide my hand down and then say, whoa, and pull to my hip. What that also does is it establishes a verbal command to stop. Good. Perfect. All right. Now I'll get him to progress up to a trot and squeeze. Keep squeezing until I get him to trot. There we go. Perfect. Keep traveling off nice and easy. Squeeze. And I want consistency at this trot. As long as he's not going to do anything, what he's wanting to do is he's wanting to kind of come down to a walk or a stop. And as soon as he does, I'll let him make a mistake right there. Squeeze. Perfect. Right there, I want to desensitize his airspace. You kind of grab his attention a little bit. Push him up into a lope. So I brought him back to a stop. And we'll get him back. Squeeze. Want to kind of slow by the gate. Most horses will do that. Bring him to a stop again. Perfect. Wait till he softens and gives. There. The quicker you can release when he gives, the quicker he'll learn and accept it. You get that trot down again. Squeeze. 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 Up. Thank you. There we go. The first shot, I just want to get him to the point where he's comfortable with me up here. Really, I'm not going to be doing any direction or reining. I just want him to get comfortable. Slow down. Whoa. What I tell a lot of my customers is when you ask them to whoa, it should be a nice fluid whoa. Like a nice whoa. What has a tendency to happen is most people, they give you an abrupt whoa, and you send all that energy right through that horse. So when you ask them to stop, say that verbal command, nice and fluid, a nice long, drawn out whoa. And it really works. It really works if you do it from the beginning. So squeeze, keep squeezing until you get the desired speed you want. Now notice on this last transition down to a stop, when I started to say the word, he actually started to kind of stop on his own. I could feel his body shut down. Stop him over here on this side. Whoa. Good. What I found is I feel all my leg work correct and the groundwork right, most horses will respond this way. Every now and then, you have one that doesn't fit them over. But if you do all this method correct and the same, you always seem to have huge success. So, I've done most everything. What I want to do right now, I want to get him to lope and stay loping around the pen consistent for a while. So I'm going to squeeze. Keep squeezing. Create a little more energy. There we go. Squeeze. Squeeze. As soon as he brings to a trot, right here, squeeze. Whoa. Basically, he almost stopped in the verbal command alone right there. It took him about 10 feet, but he started shutting down. So, pretty good for this little colt. Get in the point. We'll give each direction. There. That's pretty good for about a day or so. When a rider really works on the consistency of the way that they ask and how that they ask, they really achieve results. And I've been working on myself to improve myself, and one of the clinicians said, when I quit training horses and started training myself is when I really achieved results. And that really kind of stuck with me, because what happens is everybody rides, and their consistency of riding is not the same, and they always wonder why their horse never really does really great with them. Well, it's because they're not asking the same way. So we'll look in the other direction. There we go. I've trained a lot of different types of horses for a lot of different things, and what I've found from my program is if I can use this Australian stock whip, what it does, so it gets used to the stuff lying around their head. If you ever want to turn your horse into a rope horse, it desensitizes their airspace. Plus I can wrap it around the front legs, the back legs, and just desensitize them all over. So you always prepare for the worst, hope for the best. As long as he's not going to do nothing with too much energy, I'll just continue to twirl this around and start to pop it rightly. There we go. Drop in the bit. Plus, I had a horse that was really headshot one time, and like this little guy has a tendency to be just a hair. So I could take this whip, and I could just kind of rub him all over, and just kind of get him to the point where all this stuff is just old hat. He's not going to do anything and make a big production out of anything. And where he's kind of swinging his head around there. Hotter after. Anyway, where he's swinging his head around, normally I just kind of let it go, not worry about it, because over time they just kind of forget about it. So, what I might do is change it over here. Oh, I'll grab that again. There we go. Thank you. Normally when I'm out doing the first rides, all the times I don't have the element of a rafter. There we go. See, right there, having that whip be around the ground, it just kind of gets him used to all of these things. If something came up and you got in front of him like that, gave him reason for concern. And I just keep kind of tinkering with these horses, getting to the point that all this stuff's really not going to bother them. I really get some horses that are pretty quiet, and in a short amount of time, I've had some pretty novice riders get on some of these colts that I've started, and have had some pretty good success. Now he's one to just kind of sit there and flip his head around, create this energy and get him kind of moving on. He can put into that energy positive. Basically, this little colt, what I'm noticing him, what he's doing is he's kind of just getting a little fatigued. We've accomplished a bunch with him today. Got into the point where he can walk, trot, lope, on a loose rein, each direction. So instead of pushing him to the point where he gets frustrated and mad, what I'll do is probably just walk him and cool him out and end it on a good note. So all in all, this first ride's been a pretty good success. I was able to get to the point where I desensitized him. His little eyes, we could have worked on a little bit more. This is just a touch head shy, but that'll go away. That's not something that I have a big concern for in the first ride. Basically, right now, when I get into the ride, I want to end it in a point where, away from the gate. He's been wanting to kind of, right over here. He's been wanting to kind of hang out by the gate and stay over there. So right now, I'm just going to flex him for a few minutes, get him to give to the bit, stay in one spot. And we'll cool him out, just let him sit here and relax for a bit, and call that good. So basically, just to recap who I am and what I'm trying to accomplish. My name again was Matt Zimmerman, and been training horses for a long time and starting a lot of colts. And by starting a lot of colts, it really teaches you a lot if you kind of pay attention to the details. And so I've seen this competition years ago and have been involved in several of them before. I've had pretty good success winning several round pin competitions, and I have been able to get quite a bit done in a short amount of time without doing it the real rough and tough cowboy way. And one of my friends, we talked about it, and the comment is I know that I know that I know that I can compete in this competition and have success. And I just would be grateful to have the opportunity, and we'll just see where life takes me, and we'll go from there. Anyway, thank you.